hi, I'm Peter O'Sullivan. I'm a specialist musculoskeletal physiotherapist. I work in Perth, Western Australia. I kind of hold two roles. One is as a clinician, where I work part-time, and the other as an academic. I'm a professor at Curtin University, where we do research into the underlying mechanisms and the management of chronic pain disorders. Yeah, it's really interesting. I was just at a conference in Christchurch, actually, and that's where my journey began in New Zealand. And it was really probably a bit by chance. I kind of was toying up between medicine, but then I had some exposure to physio, and it kind of attracted me that it was a bit more dynamic, interactive, more hands-on, which kind of appealed to me. So it was really just by chance, actually, that I kind of applied and got in. And I thought, wow, I'll give that a go. And actually, at the end of my training, I really thought, wow, that was crazy. There's like no evidence behind this job. I remember regurgitating all the stuff in my final exam, going to our library, and there were literally two journals in the library. And I'm going, there actually is no evidence for anything that we do. And I found that deeply unsettling. So I kind of had to make a decision at that point as to whether I was going to get out, which I actually applied for medical school before I graduated. And I was kind of fortunate that, in hindsight, I was fortunate that I was told to, take a year and come back after a year, because the people in the interview panel thought, because I could think they could see that I was really uncertain as to where I was going. And I was really lucky. I was mentored in that first year by some physios, and I kind of thought maybe there is something in this. And that kind of set my journey, I suppose, both clinical and then subsequently academic, because there was just, when I graduated, zero evidence for anything that we did and very little research into pain or musculoskeletal pain. It was kind of like a big hole, and I that's why I came to Australia, because I couldn't do a PhD in New Zealand at the time, and I wanted to do further education, and that's kind of really embarked on my both clinical and research career, which has been such a privilege, actually, to kind of run this journey of changing and completely how I practice as a clinician, but also learning from that journey and the research around what is evidence-based, and realizing so much of what I believed was just a belief and was really not aligned to evidence at all. And so using research to update my practice as a clinician, it's kind of like that to and fro across my career, really. It's been such a privileged journey. I'm really proud of the team of people I work with. I think part of the joy of my journey has been working with amazing clinicians and working with amazing researchers. And what really resonates for me is just that joy of working with people with shared visions and values. And from that, you just get growth. I mean, I think, I'm just so privileged to work with really clever people who question me and my beliefs and the way I think, and they've nudged and pushed me along my career. And so that's, if I kind of look at my research career, it's entirely been enabled through a wonderful group of people. So probably my proudest would be the team that I work with, and a gratitude for that, I think. So it's kind of interesting, because having just been in Christchurch, where I had my final clinical year and my first 3 years of clinical practice, that was in the era where there was this kind of, it was everything around pain. The understanding was pain was biomechanics and structure, basically. So, the McKenzie model of, derangement, dysfunction, postural syndromes was really big. Kind of probably some of Yanda's and Simon's concepts around muscle imbalances. So my whole lens was really around pain being linked to changes in structure or instabilities or imbalances in muscles. So it's like a very, very narrow lens. And and I suppose across my career, it's just this greater understanding of the complexity of pain, and particularly when pain becomes chronic and persistent and disabling, is that this is a whole person experience that influences a person's beliefs and emotional responses to pain and behavioral responses to pain becomes this really complex and individual kind of process that leaves people trapped in a really bad place. And so this huge shift of understanding of looking at things from a very structural biomechanical lens to a whole person lens, seeing it through a lens of their own individual story and then complexity to kind of understand what are the factors that are relevant for that person. And seeing, these kind of biomechanics and movement much more through a lens of a behavioral response to a person's beliefs and fears or distress, rather than something fundamentally wrong with their body structures, I think has probably been the big shift for me. Look, I think we have like an amazing opportunity as a profession. I think, we just, I wrote with colleagues a paper around the pain clinician, which was just published in Scandinavian Journal of Pain with Johan Vlein and Stephen Linton, who are really well-known pain psychologists. And it kind of looked at the kind of focus of that paper and another colleague in Sweden. And the focus of that paper was around what do we need? What skills are needed to support people with pain? Instead of saying, oh, these are the skills I have as a physio, or these are the skills I've got as a pain doctor, or these are the skills I've got as a psychologist. So like, what are the skills that a patient needs? So like kind of flipping it around to go, we've got a massive problem in our society where we've got chronic diseases like going through the, like increasing burden. And we haven't really done a good job to help that or reduce the burden. We've got health systems that are, drowning because we've got so much money being spent for really shitty outcomes. So what do patients want? And we've done a lot of work around, qualitative research around what do patients with pain want from us as clinicians? And then do we have the skills to support that? And so I think that lens is really helpful to go, who's best to provide that support. And I think, psychologists are overwhelmed and they're not really skilled or confident to work with pain often. The GPs are overloaded. The specialty medicine, again, is like multi-disc practices, you can't even get to them and the outcomes are not that great. I think physio is like a perfect profession. We've got the numbers, we're sitting in primary care, but we need to, I think, upskill to, develop the skills to more effectively manage a really tough group of people who are struggling in our society. So I'm really hopeful, but I do think we need to make a shift as a profession to actually go, we actually need to probably let some stuff go and build broader skill set. Not so that we become psychologists, because that is not our skill set, but we effectively work with other professions, but to support the patient. And, to me, that's obviously where our work's going, around implementation studies and upskilling clinicians. And, it's exciting work because we're hearing clinicians telling us that, they're developing confidence now to work with people with pain. And we're also hearing from patients that they're feeling heard and validated and supported and given skills to effectively self-manage their condition. Now, doesn't mean this is a panacea, because I don't think we're going to get a panacea, but it's doing a better job to support people who are really struggling in our society. And that's a good thing. Look, it's so interesting because I work in a clinic and I know there's a lot of anxiety around this whole idea of self-management. And I think there's a bit of misunderstanding around self-management. Self-management is not giving a brochure and saying, hey, go to a website and self-manage. It's actually coaching people to learn the skills to have confidence to self-manage their condition. So that's a journey with them, and it's a partnership. So that doesn't take away my skills as a clinician. It just means that we need a broader skill set. I think of the walk back trial as well. Like these are people who have been discharged from care, who have been coached to more effectively prevent recurrence of pain. We should be involved in prevention. We should be involved in upskilling people to self-manage, because the impact around self-management isn't just for pain, it's for mental health, it's for physical health, it's for cardiovascular disease. It's like good self-management around lifestyle factors and re-engaging people in work and social environments and building their confidence in their body will have a whole health impact. That's where we have to be going, I reckon. And it may be perceived as a threat for business, but actually it's good business in my mind. It's really good healthcare, and there's no lack of patients out there. So it's not like we've got a dwindling supply of people with pain in our communities. It's just that we haven't served them well. So they're sitting on big wait lists, I think. The biggest thing I would say is find a mentor. I think that was the key for me, is find someone who's smart and kind and supportive and will help build help you grow as a clinician, and create a safe environment that you can grow as, that a mentor is not someone who sits on you and critiques you, but actually brings the best out of you. And we don't have a strong culture of peer review and mentoring in our profession. I reckon we absolutely need that in our profession, because I think that will be one of the keys for keeping people to sustain and grow. We kind of mentor techniques, but we don't mentor how to communicate with a stressed or frightened or angry or depressed person. And the other people, that's the profile of the people we know are struggling with pain. We mentor dry needling. We supervise stuff that is often pretty low value in terms of treatment, but we don't mentor people to build their skills to train people to effectively self-manage conditions. That's just that I would say for young graduates, is find a good mentor that you trust, that will support your journey and that you can grow with. Yeah, so it's interesting because in our practice, we got people from all, like a whole range of, people been out for 20 years versus, say, 6 or 7 years. And, we have weekly reviews with complex cases where we work with we have a psychologist who works with us as well. We do peer mentoring between each other. That's how we keep learning. Like, if you're in clinical practice, I'd be pretty worried if you had a sense that you had it all sorted, because every day in my practice, I have people who've been through the system who are in real trouble. And we haven't got a cure for chronic pain. So keep learning, keep challenging yourself, keep opening your mind to different ways or upskilling. To me, that's a growth mindset that sustained me in my career, which is why I still love going to work. I love clinical practice, because I see every day people who are really challenged with dealing with their own problems. Probably comes back to my first point, Josh, that when I started out as a physio, there was no evidence. Like, there was an absence of evidence. And I think, we've seen amazing evolution of research that actually gives us really clear roadmap to what better care looks like. And, we're awash with all kinds of dodgy journals out there, which clinicians struggle, I think, really struggle to determine what's high quality evidence and what's not. So to have a trusted resource to go to where you can reliably access knowledge around what is the evidence, what is reliable evidence for this condition, I think is absolutely critical. Because you know, if you don't have to go far on social media, and you'll get all kinds of controversial and contradictory opinions on the same topic, which are often linked to vested interests or personal alliances or beliefs, or the person selling a workshop. But actually to have an independent body that's not got vested interests to say, hey, what is the evidence for this? That's so important for us as a profession, and for clinicians to go, I can trust this as a source of reliable, accurate knowledge.